All right, guys. The quick update. As you can see, we've removed the water pump pulleys, supercharger pulleys. Still didn't remove the tensioner, belt tensioner. AC compressor still hooked up. I'm not gonna remove. I'm maybe just unbolt it from the block, but I'm not gonna disconnect the lines because, as you already know, I have to get a charge if I do all that. The header on the passenger side is being removed. And they still need to do the driver's side. I didn't record removing the water pump and headers and all that because I figured if you're going to tackle a cam swap, removing the water pump and headers should be a walk in the park. So no need to waste film recording those things. So I will kick back in, record major things like removing the heads, of course the cam, timing chain, that type of stuff. Headers out, water pump off, pulleys off. I'm gonna take the valve covers off, and then I'm gonna take the heads off. And the valve covers are 10 millimeter bolts. So. All right, guys, so take off those 10 millimeter bolts. Those two in the back, you might have to get you a 1/4 inch long extension and 10 millimeter socket. Get to those two in the back on the passenger side. You take them 10 out, 10 millimeter bolts out, and you might have to use a little force. Once again, this valve cover probably hasn't been off since it left the line in Kentucky. So you might have to use just a little bit, and it should pop right off. And the valve cover is off. Got the valve cover off. So now, just a matter of removing my rocker arms, and then we unbolt the heads. All right, so now that we got the valve cover off, just a matter of removing the rocker arms, 8 millimeter socket, and go to work. There you go. Move the push rods. I'm not reusing my push rods, so I ain't worried about the order and keeping them in, the same spot because I'm putting in new push rods. So don't get acting a fool. I got new push rods, new lifters. I'm gonna do a valve, do new springs, retainers and seals and all that. All that's gonna be replaced. And I'm gonna be doing new trunnions as well. So 8 millimeter socket. Take your time. Move your lifters and your rods. Now it's just a matter of removing the cylinder head bolts and taking the head off. All right, guys, so about to take the head off. You'll need a 15 millimeter. 15 millimeter. And I just start from the middle and work my way. All right. So my head off, I noticed I didn't have any guide pins, but actually they had came out with the cylinder head. So just grab your pair of needle nose pliers and a non-marring hammer and tap those back in. But I do have guide pins. They just came out with the cylinder head. So I have, you can see I put them back in. So we all set. Now just do the driver's side. Make note. I'll be looking for the two 13mm bolts on the back of the head. There might be another grounding wire on that side, as well as they have the harness secured to the back of the head. Why GM decided to do that, I don't know, but it's a bitch to get to. But it's two 13mm. I know it was two on the passenger side. I'm gonna double check on the driver's side and just take my time. But it's just a process. Valve covers, rocker arms, you know, valve, you know, lifter trays and all that, and just work your way out. Take your time. Try not to tear shit up. Then once we get that head off, then we'll start working on taking the harmonic balancer off, the timing chain cover, and time to move the cam, do my DOD delete, phase limiter, 0-degree phase limiter, and all that, and start putting it back together. Working on the driver's side, getting ready to take this head off. Rocker arms have been removed. I've taken out 7 of the 15mm head bolts. I've taken out the 15mm bolt that's on the back of the head. And I've taken out the 13mm bolt that was on the back of the head. The one 13mm is like a ground wire for the harness. And that 15mm is just the, I guess they secure the wiring harness that's coming across the back of the engine. That 15mm bolt. It's much easier to get to as opposed to on the passenger side. I was able to work my hand in there with a box end 15mm, and was able to loosen it up, and then enough to free it enough to turn it with my hand and work it out. So, and then the 13 is really easy from this side right here. It came right out. Now, one thing on the driver's side, you got this hex bolt, and it's in the 10 spot in the cylinder head. Okay, you're gonna need a 6-point hex female. I mean, this is a male, excuse me. This is a 13mm. 13mm. Hopefully you can see that 13mm. Boom. Take your time. Now, GM, when you're working on these heads, GM recommends that you do not use an impact wrench. Do not use an impact wrench. Take your time, get you a 1/2-inch breaker bar, and break those cylinder heads free. And then maybe at that point, you know, use a impact wrench. But starting out to break them loose, I would say use a breaker bar. And because they recommend that, because, you know, them impact wrenches, if you're not fully seated on that bolt, on that stud, and you mess around and round off a head on that bolt, you're going to be screwed. You're going to spend a lot of time with a grinder or even torches, you know, trying to get that, you know, get that head of that bolt off. And then from there, you know, you're going to have to take time and try to get that stud out of the block. So they recommend, you know, using just a regular breaker bar to break them free, and then at that point maybe use you know, your tool to, you know, take them all the way out. But initially starting out, breaking up, you know, breaking and loosening them, use your 1/2-inch breaker bar to get those loose. So there you have it. It's the shorter stud. It's a 13 hex. 13 hex. You're gonna need a male 13 hex for that bolt in the 10 spot. So make sure you have one. If not, you know, go on Amazon or wherever and get you one. But you will need this. Don't say I didn't tell you. I'm going back with the ARP stud kit, and I'll show you that part number once we get to it. But for now, this head is ready to come out. All right, let's see if we can get this head out. All right, it's out. Ready? So again, this head, once again, the guide pins, one of them came out along with the head. So one of them came out with the head, so I just grabbed me a pair of needle nose and cylinder head gasket, we'll be replacing those. Yeah, so as far as the guide pin, just put it back in there and then I tap it back in with a non-marring hammer. I should be good to go with that. Good to go. All right, so the cylinder head, both cylinder heads off. We ready to go to work. We ready to go to work.